The Unbelievable Check Story, 10 Red Flags in Hinds' Explanation, an editorial by Professor Wall Street. Former National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hinds' explanation for his controversial May 29th visit to the Ministry of National Security raises more questions than it answers. His claim that he was merely collecting a check appears increasingly suspect as details emerge and consequences unfold. The subsequent transfer of multiple senior officials, including the permanent secretary, suggests authorities found his story far from convincing. The administrative earthquake that followed Hinds' innocent visit, with permanent secretaries being shuffled across multiple ministries and a formal probe launched, indicates this was no routine check collection. When a simple financial transaction triggers such sweeping personnel changes, it's time to examine the credibility of the official narrative. Here are 10 reasons why Hinds' check story doesn't allegedly add up. 1. Timing raises immediate suspicions. The innocent visit occurred just weeks after the change in government, at a time when former ministers would typically be finalizing their affairs through proper administrative channels. That Hinds felt compelled to personally visit the ministry for a check rather than using standard bureaucratic procedures suggests urgency that contradicts the routine nature he claims. 2. The convenient phone call narrative. Hinds received a phone call informing him about a ready check, a remarkably convenient explanation that conveniently places the initiative with ministry officials rather than himself. This unsolicited communication about his financial matters seems improbably well-timed, particularly given the sensitive period following the government transition. 3. Unprecedented security response. If Hinds was just collecting a check, why did his visit prompt such an extraordinary security response that Defense Minister Wayne Sturgis was pulled from a cabinet meeting? The disruption of high-level government business suggests officials viewed this as far more serious than a routine financial transaction. 4. The elevator meeting theater. The scenario of the permanent secretary emerging from an elevator to hand over a check in the car park reads like choreographed theater. This clandestine exchange method seems unnecessarily secretive for what should have been a straightforward administrative matter handled through proper channels. 5. Multiple officials transferred the subsequent transfer of the permanent secretary. Another PS and a senior ministry staffer suggest a systemic problem, not an isolated incident. If Hinds was just collecting legitimate payment, why would multiple officials face administrative consequences for facilitating what he claims was routine business? 6. Access privileges revoked. Following the check collection, access privileges for senior ministry personnel were revoked, an extreme security measure that contradicts the benign nature Hinds wants the public to believe. Such drastic security responses typically follow serious breaches, not routine financial transactions. 7. Files. Clearly compromised. Defense Minister Sturgis' statement that files were clearly compromised directly contradicts Hinds' innocent explanation. The compromise of sensitive documents cannot be explained away by a simple check collection, suggesting Hinds' activities extended far beyond what he publicly admits. 8. Regiment-related files involved. Reports that at least one compromised file related to the regiment indicate the incident involved highly sensitive military matters. No routine payment to a former minister should require access to or discussion of regiment files, exposing the inadequacy of the check collection explanation. 9. Strong reluctance to provide files. The reported strong reluctance by officials to provide certain files suggests they recognize the impropriety of the requests. If Hinds was merely collecting a check, why would any files need to be accessed or provided? And why would officials resist such requests? 10. Pattern of deflection. Hinds's failure to respond to follow-up questions about whether he requested or left with documents suggests deliberate evasion. Someone engaged in legitimate business should have no difficulty providing complete transparency about their activities and document interactions. The administrative aftermath tells the real story. The sweeping personnel changes following Hinds's visit reveal the true magnitude of what occurred. When permanent secretaries across multiple ministries are shuffled and formal probes launched, it indicates authorities found serious cause for concern, hardly the response to routine check collection. The transfer of National Security's acting permanent secretary to the office of the Prime Minister, where such officials can be more closely monitored, suggests authorities needed to ensure proper oversight of someone who may have been compromised by the incident. Security implications beyond belief. The security breach implications of this incident extend far beyond what any check collection could reasonably justify. The revocation of access privileges, file compromise concerns, and involvement of regiment-related materials paint a picture of serious security violations that Hinds's simple explanation cannot adequately address. That multiple senior officials required transfer suggests the incident compromised the integrity of the ministry's operation in ways that a routine financial transaction never could. The pattern of resistance to providing files further indicates officials recognized they were being asked to participate in potentially improper activities. The credibility gap widens. Hinds' selective responses to questions, answering some while avoiding others about documents, demonstrates the weakness of his position. Someone engaged in legitimate business should welcome complete transparency, not practice selective disclosure that raises additional suspicions. The coordination required for the car park handover, the timing of the visit, and the subsequent security response all point to activities far more complex and concerning than simple check collection. The administrative earthquake that followed confirms that authorities found his explanation inadequate. Questions that demand answers. If Hinds was just collecting a check, why was there resistance to providing certain files? Why did his routine visit compromise sensitive documents? Why were multiple officials transferred if they were merely facilitating legitimate business? The pattern of evasion, the security response, and the administrative consequences all indicate that Hinds's check collection story is a convenient fiction designed to obscure more serious activities. The public deserves complete transparency about what really occurred during this controversial visit. Beyond belief. Fitzgerald Hinds' explanation for his ministry visit strains credibility beyond the breaking point. The supposed routine check collection has triggered unprecedented security responses, personnel transfers, and file compromise concerns that no legitimate financial transaction could reasonably justify. In conclusion, the discrepancies between his simple explanation and the complex administrative aftermath suggest the public is being presented with a carefully crafted narrative designed to minimize a far more serious security breach. Until full transparency is provided about what really occurred, Hinds's check story remains what it appears to be. Allegedly an unbelievable attempt to explain away suspicious activities that compromise national security operations.